We wish to acknowledge the enduring relationship between Indigenous peoples and the lands that they have traditionally occupied. We recognize and deeply appreciate the commitment they have to this land and the historic connection. That includes the land, the water, the sky, and all that live in, on, and above it. We are grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all the generations of Indigenous peoples who have taken care of this place and who continue to care for it. And we want to show our respect. Hundreds of years after the first treaties were signed, they remain relevant today. May they guide our decisions and our actions. We commit to learn, to educate, to honor sacred places, and to take action towards real truth and reconciliation. Miigwech. Council, any declarations of pecuniary interest or conflict of interest with regards to our agenda today? I'm going to go Councillor Graziano and then Councillor Jarvis.
Your Worship, I have a conflict with regards to the second part of today's meeting.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jarvis.
Yeah, I'm wondering, and maybe the clerk can help me on this, as a water access property owner and one paying taxes for no garbage service, do I have a vested interest, and is there a conflict with regards to the first part of this meeting today?
Madam Clerk.
As the clerk, I'm not permitted to provide advice. However, the MCIA references direct or indirect pecuniary interest as in something that would be specific to your property or an immediate family member's property. For example, all of you vote on matters that deal with zoning bylaws as a whole, with the actual official plan amendment or the zoning bylaw in general, not just specific amendments. And you vote on property taxes because that impacts the municipality as a whole. There's a larger collective. So items that are the larger collective residents as a whole are not considered to be a conflict.
Okay, that clears things up. Thank you.
Councillor Graziano.
Thank you, and through your worship, I believe that we have a ratepayer acknowledgement that we were supposed to read going forward, and so if with your approval, I'll proceed to read the ratepayers acknowledgement, and I believe that our motion was to include this in every subsequent meeting thereafter the motion is passing. So,
please go ahead.
Thank you. Before we begin, we acknowledge the commitment from the residents and ratepayers of the Georgian Bay Township. We recognize that this municipality exists and operates because of the financial and voluntary contributions of a diverse community, including full-time residents, seasonal residents, businesses, and volunteers, who sustain our services, infrastructure, staff, and local democracy, and share a common interest in a transparent, fiscally responsible, and well-governed municipality. Council and the corporation of the township, including municipal staff, commit to serving residents with accountability, fiscal responsibility, sound stewardship, and to foster a service-oriented culture that focuses on determining how we can help and also act in the best interest of the community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not aware of anybody that signed up for open forum, and so we'll go to our new business item, which is basically a waste management discussion on the Marina bin site transition. Councillor Cooper, would you like to start this conversation off? We don't have a staff report here, so one of us has to start. And I have received some emails from you, so I thought maybe you might be interested in starting it.
Guilty as charged, Mayor. But thank you. And I would like to thank you very much for calling this meeting. I think it's an important discussion, and particularly to our residents who have recently been, I'll call it, disadvantaged with respect to solid waste. So thank you for calling the meeting, and I think it'll be very helpful for us to have a fulsome discussion and hopefully work to a solution at the end of the discussion. So that's sort of my hope. I don't want to sort of hog the floor, so to speak, but I'll just cover off a couple of points. And if you speak to any of our residents, many say, not always rightly, but say what services do I get? I certainly, solid waste is the biggest one on my list and would be in most communities. There are other services that are provided. I could name a ton of them, planning and go on, but people perceive solid waste as one of the few things that they get for some pretty high taxes if you're on waterfront. And so the communities that have been basically disadvantaged because of a move that was taken need to be, I think the issues around that need to be addressed. And that's what I wanted to see happen today. I just would point out that in terms of sort of the water access world that is being sort of forced to move to privatized services at their marinas, it's a pretty large group. Could range anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 households. A lot more properties than that, but about somewhere in between those two numbers. Starting in Honey Harbor, moving up through Cognisheen, Bone Island, Palisades Bay, Go Home Bay, Wawatasi, 12 Mile Bay. So those are there's very little in 12 Mile Bay, mainly because it's all road access along 12 Mile. But in any event, those are the communities that have been impacted, and anywhere from sort of 800 to 900 in Honey Harbor to, much lower numbers in places like Wawatasi at the very north end of maybe 50 residences. So I just wanted to put that in context. The other thing that we need to remember is that our solid waste is a fairly high figure in our budget, and that figure has been gradually going up over the years from sort of 2 million to 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I think if we hadn't received a credit this year, our budget would have been, I think, over 2.5 million. I may be a little bit off. I hope I'm not, but somewhere around that. And we also found out that, however, the district gave us a credit because there were a lot of services, frankly, being withdrawn. And you can look at that sort of credit in two ways. And one of the ways to look at it is that maybe that should be applied to helping subsidize the services for the water access communities that have been disadvantaged. So I have other points to make later on in the discussion, but I just sort of wanted to set the table, so to speak, about this, and I hope we can come to a solution that will serve all, and that's my desire today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hazelton.
Thank you. One of the things that I think is important about discussing waste at this point in time, especially in the bin transition, is Cooper said, the district has taken away all the services that are being used on a daily basis at the marinas for these water access only properties. Now, there's a lot of other properties that use these bins, but let's put those aside for the moment. So we have services being taken away. We also know from the work that the research we've done and the conversations we've had that not only have the lift services been taken away, but all of the waste is now going to a different place. And so when you look at the magnitude of the impact on the district, this is not just the lift cost and the trucking cost. This is all of the waste going outside of our district to a different location, which has massive benefits for the district in they're all panicking about their Rosewarne site and it filling up too much. Well, you're going to take probably 40, maybe 50% of the waste volume out of the district, from the township, out of the district and into some other jurisdiction. And there's no recognition being made for any of that. And so our residents are actually fairly bright. They know that when their marina has a private service, that the waste is going someplace else. They know that all these lifts are not taking place. And as Councillor Cooper said, this is really the single visible service that we collect the taxes on behalf of the district. I get it, but we collect the taxes from the residents, and they look at it as we are government. We collectively, the township and the district. So we are collecting taxes, and yeah, we can claim that we're passing it off to the district, but the residents see us as the first point of contact, and we have this massive cost going out of the township and no recognition specifically for this group of residents who are most impacted by this action. And I think we need to find a path to recognize that financially and to take steps to try to make these residents whole on this matter. I'll pause there for a second.
Thank you. Any other councillor wish to comment at this time? Councillor Jarvis.
Yeah, I'll try not to replicate what's been said. I'll just add that as per Councillor Hazelton's comments, our constituents are not stupid, nor are they blind. They see that the curbside pickup is still an active bonus for road access properties. Over the years, they've held their tongues over the fact that that's been available, yet there's been no dockside pickup for water access residents. And now they see even further disadvantage from their perspective, or advantage to the curbside from the standpoint that it looks like we are now to considerably greater extent subsidizing the curbside pickup arrangement within the municipality. Despite the fact that I know some curbside residents are not keen on that facility, but that's there. And there's got to be some way we can, as has been stated, compensate those residents that are now paying taxes for a service they no longer receive.
Thank you. Councillor Graziano.
Thank you, through your worship. I'm going to approach this from an environmental perspective. We've recently undergone some changes on the collection facility at District Road 33, and we've seen dates, times where the facility that once was open 24/7 without supervision now has undergone some changes and required the community to dump garbage at certain times and within certain days. And there have been numerous times where I've traveled across District Road 33 and seen garbage spewed all over in front of the facility because some constituent was either upset at the fact that it wasn't open and or had garbage and felt that they're paying for that garbage through their taxes and decided to leave it there and have the animals go at it. I'm concerned that if we don't address the garbage concern specifically for water access residents, we are going to have a major environmental issue whereby some residents are going to question whether or not they should just leave their garbage out and about, and then of course allow the critters to get into it. And we're going to see, wrappers floating in our waterways. We're going to see, garbage that's left outside and perhaps blowing around. This is a real problem. I mean, I've seen it within on 33. I've contacted the district of Muskoka numerous times to have a truck come by and pick up the remnants of that garbage. And I don't believe that district will endeavor to put a boat in the water and come out and collect garbage on Bowen Island or any of the other islands if in the event that garbage is there, or even pick up garbage in the waterways. The bins at the marinas serve a purpose. It allows cottagers to come in and discard that garbage properly within a facility that is collected and addressed accordingly. And I think if we present a challenge to there will be some people that just take it upon themselves to do the wrong thing, as we've seen on 33. I myself can attest to the fact that there's been numerous times where the facility at 33 were closed, Baxter was closed, and I had left inadvertently my garbage in the back of my car for weeks on end. And these are real issues that I think our community are going to be confronted with. And as such, we have to find a resolution that makes sense for the community, as well as the amount of volume of people coming and going on weekends. I would say, and perhaps Councillor Hazelton, Councillor Cooper, and Councillor Jarvis can correct me if I'm wrong, and yourself, Mayor, that the majority of the residents within Honey Harbor, as well as Cognisheen and surrounding, are recreational residents, and as such, they come and go on the weekends for the most part. Some may stay longer periods, but the majority would be traveling through the weekends, and I think that the facility at Honey Harbor will see substantial lineups this summer, and will push people to question how they can discard their garbage in other ways. So, from an environmental standpoint, I think we have to resolve this issue and get ahead of it before it becomes a major problem and we start to see impacts because of bad policy. Thank you.
Councillor Fredko.
Thank you. My contribution isn't going to be very dissimilar to anybody else's. I think Go Home Lake and the waterfront, the water access properties there have also been experiencing the change in service level. I know there is a decrease in our levy for waste collection, but I don't think we've found a solution that's going to work for either Go Home Lake or seasonal residents or water access properties out on the bay. And I'm struggling. How do we get there? I appreciate the concept of having a different levy for water access properties that don't have bin sites. But I worry that we're going to start having other groups that have different needs want to be defined differently as well, and then have a different tier, and it's going to get complicated. Ideally, we would be able to get the district to engage with us on this and come up with a meaningful solution to what our concerns are. In terms of the marinas and approaches, I've been just going from the water access properties on Go Home Lake over the winter, and I've been trying to find out how the lakeside or collection worked. They had it available for one Sunday every other week in the afternoon for an hour or two. And I don't think anybody I talked to really ever used it over the winter. It was too complicated to know whether or not the truck was going to be there when it's not every week and it's not a convenient number of hours. I don't know when District Council will approve the reduction of lakeside collection at Go Home Lake for 2026, but that's going to be another round of concerns that are described or expressed from the community, and that's the next thing that I'm going to have to face as we go through the coming season. And the other people I've been talking to are actually not in our township, but they're up in Carling, and their water access properties up near Franklin Island, who deal with the marinas up there, and their marinas have started offering bins and for an additional fee to their customers. And from what I can gather, it's not going smoothly. It was contentious in terms of whether or not all of the marina customers wanted to pay an extra fee for garbage collection when they were willing to take it away from the property. And there are concerns about how the bins are being maintained. There's garbage being dumped around the bins, the same kind of things we always would have seen. But now it's the Marina's problem, and there's concerns that it's not being dealt with in a way that the customers are satisfied with. So I think we still have a lot of challenges and a lot of concerns that are going to be expressed over the year, no matter what we do. But I think really, I would appreciate a meaningful dialogue with the town, with the district, to see what they can offer. I know there's some reluctance to consider Georgian Bay Township unique, but I think we are, and I'm hoping we are able to get the town or the district's ear to try to help us resolve something that is suitable and acceptable to all of our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Wojcik.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor, sorry to everyone for being late for the meeting. I have a little bit of a different approach to this than what I've heard so far. 2 years ago, the bins were removed from the local marinas here in Port Severn. I woke up to 35 bags of trash and garbage on my front lawn 4 days after the bins were removed. There was a period of time, maybe a month long, that it took everyone to understand that there was going to be no change, and they were going to have to take their garbage to the Baxter Ward dump site. The biggest problem I had was people driving north on the 400, going into the transfer station, then getting back out onto the 400 to a 4 or 5 mile traffic jam going south, which delays their trip home. In another case, I was the general manager for Maple Leaf Marinas, which encompasses in Honey Harbor both South Bay Cove Marina and Blue Water Marina. And at the time the bins went into South Bay Cove Marina, private bins, there was an increase in the dockage. It was done such that, 2021, your fee for your slip was $4,100. 2022, due to inflation and a few other costs, your boat slip went up $300 or $400. There was no loss in membership to the marina. It was just a cost incurred that they knew was going to happen for upgrades on the dock, upgrades to the clubhouse, and a change in the solid waste. However, at Blue Water Marina, that didn't happen. And at Blue Water Marina, the bins were full of motor oil from boats, couches, chairs, strollers, you name it. It was just dumped in the bins or beside the bins, and my staff had to clean it up every week before the truck came up and did their tip. So I see the advantages of what the district has done to alleviate some of the stress put on the dumping site up in Bracebridge. Things have changed considerably. I know for a personal effect, we now have a green bin and we have a blue bin and we have our kitchen recycling. Our kitchen recycling's gone down to a quarter of a bag a week. I'm sorry, our kitchen garbage has gone down to a quarter of a bag a week. Well, my other two have doubled in size. We have roadside pickup here in Port Severn. Since the change, we now have some private road pickups, curbside pickups also in Port Severn, which has helped quite a bit. The problem in Port Severn is not near, and I'm the district councillor for Port Severn and for Mactier. The problem in Port Severn, I believe, has been resolved. And if you miss your curbside pickup, you just throw it in the back of your pickup truck, take it up to the transfer station and dump it off, which I do most days because I sleep in and miss the truck. Mactier is a different story, and Go Home Lake is a different story. And I'm the district councillor, and that is in my ward. So I will follow along and do whatever I can to help out Councillor Pretko in the north. I understand the issues that the rest of council have. It kind of relates to what's happening up on Go Home Lake, 6 Mile Lake, Gibson Lake. So I will continue to endeavor to work with district to try and get some sort of resolution to what's happening up there. But it seemed like time was the real end to all. After 6 months, 8 months, everybody just became used to doing it, and it was done on a regular basis, and I don't hear about it anymore. Things are a little different up north, so I will continue to monitor that and do what I can from my perspective. And thank you.
Thank you. Appreciated all the various comments that have been made so far, and I find myself sort of categorizing them into broad categories. I mean, I'm going to take what Councillor Bochek said last as my first easy comment, and that is change is a pain and difficult, and most people make the change when they have to. But complain about it. But I think that's the least important element of our discussion right now, but I just want to make that observation. I think there's broad categories. One we can talk about is I'll call it practical collection systems. What is the most practical way for people to get rid of their waste, the least inconvenient? And, those discussions have been going on with the district and with the province and with each other for half a dozen years now. And we know that we're never going to land on the perfect solution. And we can discuss those practical collection issue challenges at length again if we like. Another broad category is, I'll call it the environmental consequences, illegal dumping, inappropriate behavior type category. And obviously, no matter what services we provide, no matter, when I say we, I'm talking about whether it's township, district, province, I don't care. Whatever services are provided, they're not going to be perfect, and some people are going to adapt and complain, and some people are going to abuse. And I'm not sure how much we can actually do about the people who abuse, and I don't think even if we did exactly what some of those dumpers said we should do, they wouldn't be satisfied, because if we extended the hours when they said but if they're there at other hours, then I don't want to go down that too far. I do also understand, and I thought it was interesting, Councillor Predko made some reference to this outside our township, but marinas, their relationship with their customers is a private matter. And if they decide to provide those services or not, if they put certain conditions on it or not, if they charge high or low fees, that's not our business. That's a business that is between the marina and their customer. But the final item I'm going to mention, and this is one of the items that we've heard more about in the last few weeks, or last few months, I should say, because marinas have been advising their customers that their fees are going up. And I'm going to call that fairness in levy type of category. Why are residents paying for services that they're not receiving or are coming up with alternatives? I think in that side, I think if we want to, I believe we should be making a case to the district saying that, and as Councillor Hazelden pointed out, those marinas with private service, that is garbage that is now being taken by a private carrier to wherever the private carrier wants to go. If the private carrier is going to Rosewarne, then the private carrier is paying the fees at Rosewarne. Or if they're going elsewhere, then they're paying they're paying the collection fees or the dumping fees, whatever you want to call it, in Simcoe or wherever they take their waste. But that waste, if it's not going to Rosewarne, is again adding life to Rosewarne, the dump that the district operates. And I think that has to be reflected in what we consider. And then, so I'm going to go back, I'm going to go to the numbers, and Councillor Cooper referenced the numbers that, well over $2 million. The original 2026 levy for the township of Georgian Bay was going to be just shy of $2.5 million, $2,458,000. It's now down to $2,045,000. So it's been reduced by $400,000, which is significant. But it's reduced because they have removed all the costs of collecting the bins. They're going to expand the hours at the Honey Harbor Waste Depot and put some extra equipment in there. But most of that cost reduction is because literally they have removed services. They're no longer collecting bins at, I think it was 19 sites that they collected waste at this past year, or maybe it was 18. I forget the exact number. I think what's important, and I think it was Councillor Cooper who might have made this point, but I think what's important is it's quite possible that the solid waste collected in our township by the district in 2026 will be reduced by, I'm going to guesstimate, a third. And I'm saying a third because we know that there are about a third of our residents that, I mean, I'm going on the assumption that we have roughly 5,400 or to 5,500 households. I know district has used that same number. Just under 2,000 of those households get roadside pickup. Now, the remaining households that don't get roadside pickup, which would be roughly 2/3, I'm ballparking. Many of them have waste depot services or transfer station services, or or in one case lakeside collection. So I'm saying maybe a third of the total solid waste collected will be going through marinas, and most of those marinas are incorporating private service collection. And I think we have to understand all that. I also think what's important to note when we're looking at numbers is that almost exactly half our money, matter of fact, it's so close to half, I mean, we can call it half. If we look at 130, let's not go to all those ratios because they base it on having 9,000 properties in the township, but we know only 5,500 or less produce solid waste. But almost half our costs, like $1,024,000 in our levy, $1,024,000 is for what they call disposal diversion. I'll call it overhead, for lack of a better term. That's operating Rosewarne, and related services. The other half is what I call collection services, and they're projecting to charge the township $376,000 for roadside collection in 2026 and $645,000, almost exactly double, not quite, just shy of double, for I'll call non-roadside collection. In other words, that's the bins, the waste depots, and the like transfer station that they operate here. And by the way, the rate for that roadside pickup is $195.95. Darn close to $200 per roadside pickup. That is what we are paying the district. And to me, if we're going to talk levy, we got to talk practical. We know right now there's active conversation taking place with regards to the solid waste strategic plan that the district plans on releasing and hopefully getting approved a year from now. There's active talk, for instance, with bag takes. And one of the arguments that I've been making and getting some positive feedback on it is if people could turn in their bag tags to their marina instead of just gluing it to their bag, and the marina could then say, okay, we're collecting privately and hand the bag tags back into the district, then okay, they sell bag tags for $8. Let's say district offers, and that $8, if you do the math and you work it all out, that's the total cost of services. It kind of works out to 8. If they offered a refund of $4 on 50 tags, because everybody's going to get 50 tags in a year of ballparking, that's $200. Same $200 that they're charging us for the roadside collection. So to me, what we might want to consider is saying to district, well, we know that in next year you are planning, or we're arguing for next year, some form of bag tag system in which we could have some sort of compensation for people who don't hand in their garbage to the district collection. Why not do something this year as an interim, because the service has been taken away a year before the new strategic plan has come in. And I believe that what we should do is approach district and with the various rationale that I've already presented or other rationale, say, get the marinas to supply a list of their residents who are the resident address, like one per address. And because I think in fairness, and I don't want to get too much in the nitty gritty, but some residents some properties in our township have 2 or 3 or 4, in some cases, slips. Well, that doesn't give them permission to produce 4 times the amount of garbage, in my opinion, or get 4 times the credit. But if a marina can provide a list and say, here are 100 addresses in the township for whom I am collecting garbage, and the district should give them, I would argue, up to $200 per address compensation, then in my mind, everybody's winning. Why? Because A, the resident has been more fairly treated, and B, waste is not going to Rosewarne, which is one of the key goals of the district, to extend the life of Rosewarne. They've been celebrating recently the fact that they went to a clear bag system for the roadside collection, and the green bin or organics, if you will, has gone up. I think it was almost double, and the solid waste collected was cut by, I think it was 30 or 40%, like significant percentage, and they figured that's added 2 years life to Rosewarne. Well, we can do the same thing for them. Well, we are going to be doing the same thing for them. We're going to take a whole bunch of our waste, 1/3 of our waste, and saying it's no longer going to Rosewarne. But unfortunately, they won't have the exact stats on that until a year from now. But I think it's a reasonable request to make of district to recognize that there's a significant change in the services they're providing. A significant amount of waste is being diverted elsewhere, and they should compensate in one form or another those residents who are no longer utilizing waste services. And by the way, I'm not talking about 100% compensation. Those residents are still paying 50% of their solid waste tax, 50%. They're still covering the overhead, the disposal diversion aspect. They're not, they're only asking for compensation for the lack of collection services. That's my argument. Round 2, Councillor Hazelton.
Thank you. I wanted to provide a couple of points here. First of all, I like the direction you're going in, Mayor. It seems to make sense, but I'm going to go back to absolute basics here just for a second. I was horrified when I read our consultant's report on waste, and this is dating it, but just to kind of refresh in our minds. Our objective here is to provide an appropriate solution for the problem of getting rid of waste. And if I just kind of come up with a mock scenario, if I walk out my front door and I want to get rid of my garbage and it's not garbage day and I throw my garbage out on the lawn, that's not a very good solution. In fact, there's no solution. But if there was a garbage bin out there for me to put my garbage in, that would be a great solution. But our consultant said, no, let's hire a bunch of bylaw enforcement people to enforce people when they do the wrong thing. And so to Councillor Graziano's comment about people throwing garbage and so on in the waste on the side of the road, People do these things not because they want to, because there isn't a reasonable solution to the problem. And so what we have to focus on here is a reasonable solution to the problem. One of the problems we've had with the district is for 8 years now, 7 years, they have not listened once to the need for a reasonable solution to a water access only property. Water access only people take their waste, put it in their boat, spend large amounts of money on gas to get that garbage down to the marina, and they then need to get rid of it because they don't have a vehicle into which they can put their family and luggage and garbage at the end of a weekend. There is no option to get rid of your garbage. You have to have a solution at that point. So when the marinas are offering a new private service, it is a service that is needed. It's not a desirable service, it's a mandatory service because people don't have capacity in their vehicles. It's not like everybody who comes to their water access cottages are driving pickup trucks. Maybe that's a common thing for road access properties, but the people who come to these marinas, you don't see many pickup trucks. You see a whole lot of cars. Anyways, so appropriate solution, that's the first thing we need to think about. The second thing we need to be aware of here is that when a marina operator offers a private service, it's not just waste. As you may know, I hope you do, the recycling program in Ontario only services roadside, curbside pickup. Everybody else who is not curbside does not get the service for free. If you want to take your recycling to a transfer station or depot, yes, you can deposit it there. But for all of the water access only properties, the marina is now picking up the cost for not only disposing of waste, but for also collecting and disposing of recycling. So that's a huge difference. It's a very significant additional cost. So I think we want to be very aware here that not only has the district taken away services from the water access properties, but the province has now also taken services away from the water access only properties because previously both waste and recycling was available at a bin site at the marina. But that has all vanished. Now the marina operator, when they are trying to provide a private service, they have to incur the cost and the burden of having both waste bins and recycling bins, and they are then passing those costs on to their customers. So when we look at what is the reasonable financial settlement, if you will, for a water access only property, we want to be very aware of the scope of this problem. It's not just waste. And I also wanted to highlight the fact that we have, I think, lots of problems in our township related to waste. I don't think we are going to, in any short time window, solve all of the problems. But we have this massive problem where about 40% of our township have lost a service, and their marinas generally are backfilling for what used to be there. But these residents are not seeing any corresponding relief from a tax standpoint for these services. So we need to focus on that. We need to focus on the right solution for all of these water access people. Thank you.
If I may, Councillor Hazelton, just to your point about the marinas collecting, there is such a thing as Regulation 351 that makes it very clear that marinas must collect waste from the operators of pleasure boats. For some reason, the province doesn't understand English. Councillor Jarvis.
Yeah, I'm going to take a slightly different tact here while I'm in agreement with everything that's been said. I'm hoping our bylaw, I'm wondering how bylaw will be dealing with the miscreants And those are the ones that were abusing the previous system that was in place by disposing of non-residential garbage in the bins. And now we'll be unable to access those bins because those bins are now privately operated by the marinas and will be presumably policed by the marinas, restricting the flow of garbage, I'll call it construction waste particularly, but also larger items that tended to end up in bins previously that now will no longer be able to be put into those bins. It's going to end up in other places. And I'm wondering how we can, is that a bylaw, a responsibility for the municipality, the district, and how will it be handled?
There's nobody from bylaw in this meeting at this moment.
Yeah, it's it's an observation. It's something that's got to be considered.
Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Mayor, and goodness, a lot of really interesting input and good input. I really have picked up a few things here, but just to bring some clarity and maybe offer up a solution. At least it's one solution that I've thought of. I having been involved with the district for now almost 3 terms, 11 years plus, I'm really not of the view that we're going to be able to throw it over the fence to the district and get a solution. It's just, there's no evidence that some of the things that we're talking about here today will be on the district's radar. They're urban minded, they're town minded, they're roadside minded. They don't get water access. And I think we need to remember that. So I think we need a made in township at Georgian Bay solution to some of these issues. And I think we have every right, by the way, to take care of those things. There's, some thinking that all waste has to be managed by the district. That's correct from a diversion perspective, but they're mandated for diversion. They're not necessarily mandated for collection. If you read what has been written in the Municipal Act about collection, there are a few municipalities, upper tier, lower tier, where it's all up to the upper tier to collect it, but or manage it, I should say. But that is an exception. I think it's Mississauga, Brampton, blah, blah, about 3 or 4 of them. Everywhere else, the lower tiers have the right to do the collection. And they do. And by the way, in many parts of Ontario, as the mayor raised this issue, the marinas are collecting garbage through the services of the townships. So what's that about? And so I think we just need to remember those facts and that's reality. In terms of sort of getting a little bit more into the weeds, I think we have to remember that if we were to work with our citizens, constituents, and our marinas to find a solution, I think if the privatization is taking place, typically that is working well where the marina manages the waste, and it doesn't work very well if the marina won't take on the responsibility in a sort of daily, weekly, monthly, 6-monthly basis. And I think one of the problems in certain marinas is that they just simply aren't there or not interested in being involved with any of this. So we need to keep that in mind. The other sort of marina piece that I understand that they've been doing this, but the transient boater marinas, they're not paying any taxes. So I don't think we need to worry too much about them. I think basically they should be collecting from the people at the slips and get on with life, privatized, but paid by your slip fee. So that I don't think we need to get in that business at all. Having said all that, we have seen close to, as the mayor has pointed out, somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000 reduction in our fees, and I would like to see that applied to this issue, particularly the residents that are using the marinas. And one of the ways to deal with that is simply give a credit to the marina for the services that they're providing. And it could be a tax credit, and essentially very simply managed once. Only have to do it once. Get a roll number and a name from the ratepayer, and acknowledge that here are 200 names, and this is the credit that you get. So if it's 200 times 200, it's whatever that comes to, 40,000, I think, doesn't it? So there's the credit, but we've got somewhere around $400,000 to $500,000 to work with, and if we've there'll be arguments. Well, yeah, but that $400,000 will have to come from somewhere because our budget now, blah blah blah. Well, yeah, maybe we have to find that, because we were giving that service to our residents, and we need to return the service to them. So I would suggest that this is a very simple way of dealing with it. Provide your roll number and your name to your marina. They get a credit from the township. And it's not that big a headache. You do it once and one and done. So there's my pitch for a solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Graziano.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I would agree with Councilor Cooper. I think that the go forward, or the logical go forward, would be a main and township solution. 2022, I brought forward a motion for bag tags. Today, we still don't have them. And, whether the district is talking about them or implementing them or deploying them, we still don't have them. And I don't think that at the end of the day, we are going to have a viable solution from the district anytime soon with regards to the water access community. And this applies to not only the coastal Georgian Bay side of things, but also our inland lakes as well. There's a large contingent of water access residents on 6 Mile Lake, as well as on Go Home Lake, and so on and so on. And I think that this is a municipal wide issue. It's not just isolated to a small geographical pocket within our municipality. I like what I just heard with respect to Councillor Cooper's recommendation. I think that that's incredibly simple. I believe there's 12 marinas in Honey Harbor. There's a few in the inland lakes. I think that would simplify staff's job, and allow them to work with a very small number of marinas, and credit them back because of the service that they're offering their patrons, for lack of a better term. So I do like that a lot. I think that that's a brilliant idea, and I do echo Councillor Cooper's concerns and comments around this needing to be a Georgian Bay issue. Once a solution is found, perhaps we go back to the district after the fact and say, hey, FYI. Or alternatively, as Councillor Cooper had articulated, we find the gap or the discount that we're receiving now because of the shift in services, and deploy them and reallocate those savings back onto the ratepayer by way of this program. So I think it's a great idea. Thank you, Councillor Cooper, for suggesting it.
Councilor Bochek.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor, just a comment, and perhaps Mara Ingalls from our operations department could confirm this, but in response to Councillor Graziano's suggestion for bag tags, I know they are available, and I know because my wife bought a package of 50 bag tags just this last week. So I don't understand the circumstances, who gets them, who doesn't, but perhaps our operations director could fill us in on that one.
Through you, Mayor Coots here. I don't have any idea. That's through the district. Perhaps Karen has some information, but it's not something I've ever dealt with.
I can tell you that the bag tags that Councilor Bochek is referring to was for a commercial operation that wanted to have the privilege of disposing of garbage at the Honey Harbor Depot, And because it wasn't residential garbage, they required bag tags, and they purchased a set of bag tags from the district.
Yes, I believe that is correct.
But our topic here at this point is residential garbage, not commercial garbage.
Right. I wasn't sure there was a difference between the two, but understood. Thank you.
All right. I think we've been at this almost an hour. I want some clarification on Councillor Cooper's suggestion. Because if I understand Councillor Cooper correctly, we could be talking up to 2,000 residents are using marinas per your calculations, Councillor Cooper. I think the number is maybe a little less than that, but let's use 2,000 because it's a nice even round number. And if we're talking $200 per those residents, then we're talking $400,000. So that's the potential credit that we could be talking. And you're suggesting that that credit would be financed by in effect, the township ratepayers as opposed to the district ratepayers? Because if you're saying the township is going to offer that money, then that comes out of the township budget?
So Mayor, I'm suggesting that our fees paid to the district have been reduced by $400,000. There's your 400 right there.
But that except that was a reduction in the district levy that we're collecting for everybody from every.
Yes, correct. So we're going to be collecting in the same way from the same people, aren't we? You're just you're taking the 400,000 that you saved and giving services back to the people that have been disadvantaged.
But if we're collecting $400,000 less from our ratepayers because district is requiring $400,000 less, then where's the $400,000 coming from to give to the marinas?
You either have to tax the ratepayers so everybody gets the same service, or you reduce some of our expenses so maybe we take 200,000 of it and say we've got to do something about this, and this, and all the things that we're spending money on, and the other 200,000, all the ratepayers across the township help to subsidize those that have been disadvantaged, and those services were provided in the past, Mayor. So why shouldn't they be provided in the future? And taxation should be appropriate to that or related to that.
And $400,000 on our township levy is what percentage? 4%, roughly. So I'm just trying to understand the rationale here to make sure that we're all, if you will, singing from the same song sheet.
Yeah, and I'm saying that some of it, there may be several ways to financially skin a cat here. Sorry about the cats, but anyway, I think there are different solutions. Some of it can be savings. We have to start maybe being more tough-minded about what we're approving or not approving. Maybe we need to say, well, yes, we got a break before or now, the 400,000 from the district. We're being charged less. You ratepayers are, by the way, benefiting from that. We're knocking it back up because, frankly, we were providing these services to our residents, your neighbors that are water access. So there you go. Thank you.
Councilor Graziano.
Thank you, Worship. And I thought I saw our treasurer online. I do see Jazz here. Ms. Radigan, are you available to answer a question?
She's in the room.
Thank you. Excellent. For 2026 fiscal tax year, did we see or are we seeing a increase in district levies, or are we seeing a negative amount?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Coutier, to Councillor Graziano. So there was a waste management decrease of 14.24%. in the district's 2024 levy. That resulted in an overall increase of 0.21% in the district levy. So for a property, for each $100,000 worth of assessment, the increase was only 87 cents.
Okay, so we're not necessarily, our ratepayers are not necessarily seeing any benefit. They're still seeing an increase on the district levy, even though they've titled it as a discounted rate. There's still a positive amount that they're having to pay relative to previous years.
The district levy on your property tax bill has 3 lines to it. There's a
Mhm.
healthcare line, a solid waste line, and I'll call it everything else line, for lack of better, I think they call it general. The general line is going up, the healthcare line is going up, but the solid waste line on the bill is going down. And when you put the 3 of them together, they net with a slight increase.
Yeah, so the net impact to the ratepayers, there's still an increase, regardless of how you skin the cat, whether you define it by individual line items. The net impact is that there's still a net increase. So no one's seeing any savings. Realistically, you're still seeing an increase in your taxes, even though on a line item it says there's a negative amount to it. Thank you very much for confirming that.
All right, council. Now we have to decide what we're going to do about all this discussion of an hour. Do you want to pass some sort of motion? Do you want to give direction to staff to come back with a report? Do you want to give direction to others? I mean, what do you want to do having had this hour-long discussion? Councillor Cooper, followed by Councillor Predko.
Solution. So, and I'm not suggesting that we rely just on staff. I think there should be maybe 2 or 3 options reviewed by the staff and taking into account some of the suggestions. So I'd like to see, you know, the solution related to the credit that I was talking about for the marinas, so that our constituents who are water access get a service. So that's sort of where I'm coming from. But I think from a who's going to pay for this, we have to remember that if the district hadn't dropped those services, our residents would have been paying for it this year too. So we've gone sort of down in our service offering, and I think we need to bring it back. So one of the ways to do that is the way I've described it, but there may be other solutions that have been suggested, and let's talk about them at our next council meeting if we can get some, you know, scenarios, so to speak. That's at least my thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Predko.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I'm just wondering, staff and through the CAO last year did a RFP project to come up with costs that would be associated with the township delivering comparable services where there were gaps. I'm wondering if, given the flavor of today's conversation about the marinas and the water access, if that report could be reviewed to look at just that element to see what the costs and what the implications might be for the township.
I'm trying to remember which particular report. The report, the study that we had done, what is it, a year ago or so? I can't remember.
Yeah.
The, you know.
Yeah, I think it came back last spring, actually.
Yeah, that's about a year ago. I mean, we're officially in spring now, even though it's colder today. Yeah, I think it makes sense for us to maybe if staff could just recirculate it to us, so we don't have to go looking for it. It would be helpful.
And with comments with what might change compared to what was asked for the report last year compared to what we're discussing today.
Okay. Councillor Bochuk.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. I'm not opposed to what Councillor Cooper's bringing to the table here. I think it needs refinement. And one of the words that I noticed was missing from his comments was annually. In other words, this isn't a one-time fee. It'd have to be an annual fee of savings, because the problem isn't over just this year. It moves forward.
Thank you. Councillor Hazelton.
Thank you. Couple of things, just to put things into perspective. We were talking about money and where's it going to come from. The way I like to frame it in conversations is we have all these savings that have been generated because of the killing of the bin services at the marina. But that saving has been spread across the entire township. And all we're trying to do here is say, let's identify that saving, which you already have. Thank you, Mayor. You've come up with $400,000 of saving that was a direct result of taking away all these services. And then let's say, fine, you took away those services, you spread the savings across the rest of the township. We're going to put that value back into where those services were removed and spread it across the entire township. Very, very simple. And mathematically it works out. And I think it's something everybody can get behind. I think I heard a minute ago that there may be a desire to craft maybe an informal working group with some councillors to assist in the review of this concept before it comes to our next council meeting. I would strongly encourage staff. I believe what I've heard is councillors are very interested in offering opinions. We don't have to have a quorum on these. We're in a working group, but I think there's huge value in working with councillors on that. I just want to also be very clear from my perspective. I have zero appetite for the township owning service delivery for waste. We have an opportunity here where marina owners who have in the past provided their property for district delivered waste services. So those marina operators are the ones who are looking to offer private services now. And I would say that any service, any organization like that, like those marinas, who are interested in offering these kinds of private services to offset the services that were taken away, those are the candidates for the kind of financial offsets that we're talking about. So it's not. Anyways, I'll pause there. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess what I'm thinking, my perspective on all this is, yes, there has been a $400,000 reduction in what district is charging us for solid waste in 2026 compared to the original projections for 26. And of course, these are budget numbers. We don't know what the actuals will be. I personally believe that the actuals, the cost that district will incur in providing their solid waste services to our township residents as a whole will be down well below that $2 million number they have in their projections, their budget. And I'm thinking of this as a way that we encourage district to offer this money, not the township, simply because it's the district that will be saving this money. If a third of the volume of waste that they think they're going to collect this year, they don't collect, that's significant savings to the district. And to me, those savings should be shared with the particular residents who are not disposing of their waste with the district this year and future years. And I believe that if they do implement the bag take system, and it does have a methodology for recognizing those who don't use district collection services or district waste disposal services, giving a credit that this would be an ongoing thing. It's just that right now we got this 1 year, I'll call it transition year, between the old system, but with the bins service removed, and the new solid waste strategy that will recognize the range of services or lack of services being provided. Okay, with all that, Councilor Hazen, you want one more comment before I try to get something in front of us so we can move on?
I do. I want just to highlight the fact that I think Councillor Cooper nailed it here. 3 terms on council, no cooperation from the district on this kind of topic. If we were to think for 1 second that the district would find a path to do what you just suggested, Mayor, then I think we are in such la-la land. I have zero confidence that the district would ever do that kind of thing. And I think what Councillor Cooper started off with is, and what I heard other councillors echo, is this has to be a township initiative if it's ever going to be in place. And in fairness, this is only a 1-year thing. Let's solve the problem for this year and then figure out what future years might be. But we can't eat the elephant in one bite. So let's look at it as we're going to nibble away. We're going to solve this problem initially, or help solve, because we're not going to solve the problem. If we give everybody a credit, there are some marinas that are charging more than $200, so they're still going to whine about the extra $50. We're not going to solve all the problems, but we may be able to have a gesture of good faith that allows us to diminish the angst that our residents are going to feel and are feeling. Thank you.
I think Clerk Way was working on a potential motion as opposed to just giving verbal direction to staff. We can maybe pass a motion to initiate looking further into this. Clerk Way.
So if we're just looking to provide direction to staff, I would recommend be it resolved that council directs staff to investigate solutions to provide a reprieve to water access only properties for waste management services, and that a report be presented to council with options including but not limited to refunds or bag tags.
Sounded reasonable to me. Did everybody understand what Clerk Way said? Councillor Bochek, you have a puzzled look in your face.
Yeah, I'm just, one point that was brought up, and I think it was generally thought to be a good idea, was create a working group, perhaps of an inland councillor, a Georgian Bay councillor, and members of the public to help with what will be coming forward in the way of a report. I don't know if that's something everybody's in agreement with, but it sounded like a good idea to me.
Well, we can just add to the motion and consider the establishment of a working group. But the working group is not a committee of council. So do we have to give direction to create a working group? Okay. Councillor Cooper.
It's not a committee of council, but I think the resolution more or less covers what we need to do. And in the interim, Mr. Mayor, if you choose to be able to go to the district and see what you can achieve, I'd say wonderful. There's no reason that can't happen in the background. I would suggest though that you wear a helmet because you'll be banging your head against the wall. Just saying.
Not for the first time, but every so often the wall cracks. Okay. Would you like Clerk Way to read her draft motion again? No. Should I just say all in favor? Oh, so we need a mover and a second. Councillor Cooper is the mover. His hand was up first. Councillor Jarvis, hand second. Okay, all those in favor. And I got unanimous approval of that motion. Thank you very much for drafting it for us. All right. And with that, we're going to go into part 2 of this meeting. So I have to say, moved by Councillor Bochek, second by Councillor Cooper. Whereas Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001, Municipal Act 2001, as amended, provides authority for councils of municipalities to close a meeting or parts of a meeting to the public if subject matter pertains to a matter identified in section 239(2). And whereas the council of the township of Georgian Bay deems it necessary to close this portion of a meeting in order to address matters under the following sections of 239(2), Graziano versus Mariotti in the township of Georgian Bay statement of claim. And this is, of course, under the litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. Now be it resolved that the council of the township of Georgian Bay moves into closed session of council at 10:15 a.m. All those in favor? And that is carried. And we got a different link for that?
That link will be in Teams.
The
yes.
link, you have it, everybody should have a Teams link to go to. And do we have to come back to this? It opens,
We will, yeah.
so we can just leave this open at this point? Or,
If you were remote, I think it's best practice to close out of Zoom and then log in separately
Okay.
to Teams.
all
To
right.
our clerk, I'm assuming that I don't have to return back.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, I
We will
don't-
still have quorum to rise. at
Yeah,
the
I don't-
end.
Excellent. Enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 6 of us. Good. I can say moved by Councillor Hazelton, seconded by Councillor Predko. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Georgian Bay rise from closed session at 11:14 a.m. All those in favor? And that is carried. Moved by Councillor Cooper, seconded by Councillor Bocek. Be it resolved the Council adopts bylaw 2026-016 to confirm the proceedings of the March 27, 2026 special council meeting. All those in favor? And that is carried. And moved by Councillor Jarvis, seconded by Councillor Hazelton. Be it resolved the Council is now adjourned at 11:14 a.m. until April 13th, 2026 at 9 a.m. or at the call of the chair. All those in favor?